Daryl, Artist in Recovery, Part 2. Okay, so it's 2:47 in the morning, West Coast time, still the 29th of January 2024. Now, wanted to ask you a question. Do you remember watching in the 70s? Please tell me you did this one. Channel 2 from 74ish all the way to the early 80s. MASH. The canyon that they were in, Paramount Ranch that they actually had out there. There was a time you could actually see the whole entire encampment. After the series was done, they still had parts of the encampment out there. And you would see how the helicopters would come in through the canyons, the bellicopters they called them, because of the cockpit. And it was so cool to watch this. Every time I kept turning on MASH, I kept looking at the scenery because I was seeing Malibu State Park on this one here. But in our tumultuous history out here in California, Daryl, you haven't had it much. If so, we hadn't heard about it much on the West Coast. But surely in your lifetime, and then reading in papers and the national stuff, you'd hear about our own damn wildfire situation happening. Oh my God. The the issues dealing with our own state out here is forest fires. Certain weather conditions happen. And we would get the forest fires happening up and down the damn coastline, up and down the state. Even the area that actually had the MASH set got torched. There was very few things left of it. There were beautiful things that kept getting torched left and right. Sometimes by man, sometimes by nature. But always we would have the flooding. Every time we denuded the ground with fires all around the areas, it was always like months later we would have the rains coming in, and then here comes the flash floods. And then throughout the years, didn't matter if we actually had any fires or anything happening in the area, the ground would be soft enough where we'd have mudslides and landslides all over the damn place. The fun part about living in hillsides and mountain areas is the damn slides that cut you off from society left and right on that. It was always a danger. But people liked living in the top of the hills because they liked the scenery. We're crazy. What can we say? We're insane out here in California. So, getting back to Calabasas again, there are certain areas of that place that we would drive to and through to get to areas of canyon roads. Canyon, not Canaan. But Canaan was one of those roads anyway. Malibu Canyon Road. There was also Topanga Canyon Road. Topanga Canyon, that's a hell of a navigation right there, I'll tell you. Driving that damn road just to get to the West Coast. It's beautiful. It's treacherous. It'll drive you nuts in there. And they have little niches in there of places that people would live in. As I said before, concerning about the canyon, we'd had communities in different areas of those canyons that people would grow up in and live and have school districts and stuff. Driving through the areas is a navigational hazard because I always get lost in those damn places. I'd get better navigation through the San Fernando Valley itself because I know about the linear streets. Just no problem. These things, I'm like, okay, nice to visit, but I'm not getting lost in this damn place. That's why I had to be a navigator for my brother. Try to find out how the hell to get from one place to another place. But the traveling through it, ugh, it's beautiful to look at. It's gorgeous areas to go through. And the geologic area, Seeing it along the mountainsides, freak you out like crazy. I'd seen a lot of mountains with, actually, a lot of hillsides and cliffs pockmarked with um, different types of rock formations. We think of Swiss cheese. Yeah, okay. In those holes that you would have solid stuff popping out. Or if you want to think of it as something a little bit more uh, anatomical or medical, either zits or chicken pox. Yeah, pox. I'd look at some of the ground. I'd look at some of the hillsides, how it got pockmarked left and right. Throughout the millenniums, throughout the long span of time, as the canyons would change, rocks would change too. The whole area is what we considered sediment, metamorphic and sedimentary sediment. Simply put, layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, built up through time. The oldest being on the bottom, youngest being on the top. And then sometimes we would have long processes where the rocks would get other rocks inside of it, and you see the different changes in the rocks. But we also have weathering. We would have rain that would go through all these areas and force rocks to come out of the hillsides as well-rounded lumps. And I'd see these things all around the hillsides, all on the mountainsides, even along Malibu Canyon. The major canyon roads through these mountain passes would show this pockmarked landscape. I remember them, but we never did have a chance to go through and just grab a rock or grab some good pictures of them. I'm scrolling through some of the map area of Calabasas, trying to find where Las Virgenes Road was. It right into Malibu Canyon, and then it became just a huge travel just to get to the beach. Oh, I feel old. Because every time I keep looking at this stuff, I'm reminded of how many times my brother and I would be traveling through these areas. I used to work out in Malibu for a short time, but even then, it was still, it was breathtaking to be out there. Malibu Canyon, let's see, where the hell was that? Soledad Canyon. Solstice? Shit. Oh yeah, I kept remembering we still had torch jobs out there too. Man, that just pissed me off when we get communities out there get burned up left and right by some reason or another, and it just upset a great deal of the residents out there. The major coast is Highway 1 of Pacific Coast Highway, stretching from all the way from San Diego all the way up to Washington, D.C. It's an interstate, and it became one of those major jobs out there that you travel through. What I'm trying to find right now is Malibu Canyon Road. It was supposed to have been by Pepperdine University. Just looking at the coastline itself, it's still just. I miss going through it. I mean, I truly miss going through some of this area because it was picturesque and it was just wonderful to go through. One time, my brother and I had to travel all the way over to Malibu, or actually a couple of times, where we had to take care of some legal issues. Car parked improperly and had to go to a court, paid a ticket, and had to come out of the area. Solstice Skinner. Where the hell is Malibu? Because I remember. Where the hell's Pepperdine? Sometimes I get lost because I forget. And just looking at the community and looking at the scenery, I got memory issues, getting older, and navigation's not so good. But when I was a lot younger, I was on my game during those days. So all that. Thank you. Please tell me where the hell you are. Okay, there you are. Pepperdine University. Big ass campus. And right next to it and driving through it would have been Malibu Canyon in there. Because we would see this place. Hell of a campus to go through, I'll tell you that much. I wish I had. But the ride to get over there was just intense. Crestline Drive from Malibu, yeah, but there it is. There's the Malibu Canyon. Oh, I miss it so. Part of the Malibu Canyon area over there would we'll go into Malibu City itself and you see its City Hall and California Highway Patrol sections and the LA County Sheriff's out there. In its heyday, it was all beautiful. And I'll tell you something, going through the hillsides, getting closer and closer to the shoreline, when you get right over to a specific point and you see it through the canyon walls and you see the blue contrasting against the canyons. Oh my God, it's so beautiful during those days. I had felt peace, excitement. I felt like I was part of it. In the San Fernando Valley, it was like, okay, I'm in the valley, big deal, it's home, so what? I'd seen it in Malibu, and I'm like, oh, so yeah, typical beach dude. But I gotta tell you something. The travels through the canyons are something, especially if you're doing it for the first time, trying to navigate your way through all of this mess. There had been a few times in my memories on this one here, Daryl, that shortly before we left Calabasas area, going on Malibu Canyon Road, or actually Las Virgenes, which would blend right into Malibu Canyon, there would be uh, roadside vendors that would be selling candy, nuts, crunchy stuff. Oh yeah, snacks to get you through the canyon that one would munch on. It's a navigational it's a navigational thing to going through these canyons. And if one wasn't careful, one would get lost. Once you get the coastline, oh boy, Topanga, Cagle Canyon. Oh, Cagle was a nightmare in itself. Narrow lanes, so you really had to watch your ass on that one driving through stuff like that. But once you get into Pacific Coast Highway, you probably mentioned, probably heard about some of the accidents we keep having. They keep going back and forth between the state and the locals on how they're going to be able to manage the flow through in the place because besides being a tourist trap, it's also a trap for everybody else in that place. It's a nightmare out there, even for pedestrians. They can't walk very well out there. I'm not just talking about sidewalks. I'm talking about dealing with the traffic when you have idiots want to race their cars up and down the highway. You know the proverbial uh, shots that you would see guys with the open top cars racing down, or the women doing the same thing with their hair blowing out there. Some kind of stereotypical crap you'd see throughout your lifetime. This is California. This is what we do. Ha ha. Yeah, and even when we do that, we still get people run over and make the national news sometimes. It's so crazy out there. I mean, it's well worth it just for the scenery, but, it's dangerous out there. I said before, when I worked out there in Malibu, there was a certain section out there right by the Malibu Pier. Now, back in the early 80s, we actually had this. Well, we did have heavy storms in the late 70s, but also in the 80s, the El Nino was kicking in left and right. We had king tides flooding certain areas out there, but the wind and storm surges were getting so bad that they were knocking out our piers left and right that we actually had to have years of reconstruction on some of these things. Sometimes it took about a decade. Almost took about a decade just to get the Malibu Pier working. It was so damn dangerous. It freaked people out. We had hotels and motels lined up in the areas. We had little mom and pop shops out there that dealt with seafood and regular landmass food. Chicken, beef, pork. But when you had certain sections closed off from people, it's just kind of sad about it. I look at the maps. I look at the pictures of what Google did about a few years back, and they haven't quite updated the areas yet. When I hear about a fire right along a coastline area or beach erosion, I'm looking at it just to compare what was and what is. I joked with a lot of people about our seasons out here. I told them that, yeah, we did have seasons out here in California. I kept thinking it's sunny out in California, it doesn't rain. Bullshit. Fire, floods, riots, earthquakes. Fire and floods are constant. Riots are every 30-year cycle, and earthquakes are unpredictable as hell. And the earthquakes would change our landscape a little bit more, especially when they're hitting the coastline areas. My brother and I did this tourist situation coming from Point Magoo, an air station out in Ventura up north. There was also a CB base, construction battalion they called it back in the 40s, but they called it CB. I had an uncle that used to be a CB until he turned into a SEAL. I never even met the guy. Not an uncle, but a distant cousin. My brother had met him once. Changed my brother's life forever. And seeing a naval base out there was, besides having an air base they had actually had out there that housed the Air National Guard. We also had the base out in Point Magoo. And I'd never been on an LST before, but they had one parked out there. My brother and I did a short tour in it. He kept warning me about the knee knockers and head butters, or something like that. Knee knockers basically you have the bottom of the deck. When you come up to the compartment after compartment after compartment, you see the an oval shape that these guys had to be skinny enough and small enough just to get through these things without hitting their heads above or getting their knees or ankles caught when they're not watching their feet. Try running through that damn thing. There's a certain technique. Or trying to get up those ladders up and down. You saw those war pictures? Yep. If you really want to see that, if you actually do come out to the West Coast, I would suggest that you try to visit the Port of Los Angeles. Port of Los Angeles is right in the area of Port of Long Beach. And in the channel that we have of the Port of Los Angeles, we have an Ohio class battleship. It's a USS Iowa. It's a museum piece. You want to see, or if you got another ship of your own out there, you could see how the Navy guys get through those things. Every time I keep looking at Los Angeles, every time I keep looking at Southern California, different spots, I am reminded of how many times my brother and I would be doing recon all over the place. Either for fun, to waste gas, to waste days, or just, I don't know, whatever kind of task we had to do in the first place. I look at California. I look at Southern California. It's my home. It's my home. Antelope Valley is just a place I'm sleeping in. But I grew up in San Fernando Valley. And going out to city of Los Angeles and some of the communities surrounding it. Different areas my brother and I would not go into, and other areas we did go into. We hardly ever navigated some of the rest of the stuff. I mean, at one time in San Bernardino, my brother had taken truck driving lessons, and it was a long distance from my mother and me just to get from San Fernando Valley all the way out into portions of San Bernardino just to help my brother out with a situation when he was going through truck driving school. But also out in that area, if we're not, I'm not quite sure about that one. Let me see on the east coast of it. Montclair? No, it had to be. Where the hell was it at? No, I was trying to see the edge of LA County out there because we had the LA County Fair. What coming out there? Oh, I'd love the county fair. That was something. Okay, where the hell did we had it? It was over in Pasadena, Rosemead. Shit, I've lost the track of the place. My navigational skills suck. But no, there was portions on the edge of LA County that people would go to the fair, and we had gone. And the picture that you see in the bottom on my cabinet over here is the only one in portrait that we actually have. That's the portrait. Back in 2002. I've got that picture saved several dozen times. I don't get rid of that one. I don't. My brother and I did a hell of a lot of boogieing from one place to another. Anyway, I thought I'd share those kind of stuff. You were talking about your particular apartment in the other videos. About what it looked like, or just long ass corridors just to get from one place to another place. Yeah. But out here in Southern California, we got them chunked up. If I'm going to get you back onto Google Maps one more time, I know you're going to groan at this one here. Sorry, pal. But I wanted to show you what I've been living in for the past several years. Almost like a decade in this place. Back to Roseman, California, to the edge of Edwards Air Force Base and Kern County, on a street called United with the major cross street of Roseman Boulevard. Home sweet home. Take a look at the complex. Two level. It's spread out a bit. That's home. Not much to walk to the store. I guess the closest store we have is the Short Strut Market, closer to 15th Street. That's just a small grocery store. It doesn't do the fresh fruits, but we do canned stuff like crazy in there, the processed crap. Ice cream when you need it, milk, sodas. If you're into liquor, you got plenty of it in that place. But you notice we don't have any major grocery stores in that area. That's the only store we've got in the area. So imagine living off of that thing for a while. We got a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant that's already shut down, and they're still trying to get a remodel so they can get it up and operational. There's not much of community buying out in that area. Take a stroll over to Sierra Highway to your left, to the west. See, this is the one horse armpit I'm talking about here. Kind of widen up the shot of there a bit, pal. Or just tighten up a little bit on Roseman Boulevard and Sierra, okay? This is a long video. On the corner of the southeast corner, we've got a gas station, Fast Trip. That's your convenience store and gas area that we have out here. We used to have a restaurant out there, but it's closed down and bulldozed. Some of the restaurants we have, if we're lucky enough, you want breakfast and lunch, that's about it. But after that, they shut the hours off. Kind of sucked. It was called Wayside Cafe. It just does morning breakfast and up until 2 o'clock. Kind of sucked. We've got a grocery outlet out there that does a little bit of the fruits and vegetables out there. Not much. They got to do better on their shipments, that's for damn sure. But it's the only little major grocery store we have out in that area. We have another store similar to that on the street on the left-hand side, the west side, called Diamond Street. And that also used to be still is a little bit of a thoroughfare for the businesses that we have out there. The mom and pops, hardware store, Catholic church out there, a meat place. Sometimes I don't recommend it as much. I've heard horror stories about it. We used to have a vet out there, but it shut down several years ago and plowed over that property. Used to have another major, actually I had another restaurant in the area. They shut down. They moved out. Yeah, kind of a town sometimes you wonder how come you're still in there. And then, as I kept trying to say in the other videos, the closer you get to the freeway, it's more of the action where we have, especially at Roseman Boulevard. We've got another cafe or two out there, post office out there. We have Foster's Freeze, similar to Dairy Freeze or Dairy Queen. Changed management, changed cooks over there, and it's still, oh God. Yeah, Arco at the gas station. Pizza Hut we got out there. We got Pizza Hut. You want pizza? Pizza Hut's all over the damn place. You get to the west end of Roseman. You get to the left side of the freeway, the 14 freeway. The only major freeway we've got going that's going north and south in our damn place. Only one. Every other action we've got is in that shopping center. But it's still not much. They're still trying to add more to this place. See, the map that they've got is about 2 or 3 years old, and we've already got some more reconstruction in the area. We got another major Starbucks in there. Oh God, where are they not? Uh, Tom's Restaurant, which is another eatery we have, commercial run, and people are half and half on that one, whether or not they like the place or not. The Albertsons, the only major shopping store we have out there, with its own mini Starbucks. Jack in the Box, ugh. McDonald's, well, they're not. Good Lord. Taco Smell, I'm sorry, Taco Bell. Those are the major eateries that we have. I mean, we're not all that equipped, but we're equipped enough. Your motels, if you actually want to find a comfortable place to sleep in, we've got them along Roseland Boulevard and also a few motels down Sierra Highway. I mean, you're talking about a hole in the wall place here. It's only got about 13 to 15 thou spread out community. We got delivery services out here sprung up like crazy since COVID, or actually during the COVID. They made their marks, made their businesses. So we also have a steakhouse. I mean, it used to be a brothel, then another place, and then a steakhouse. 50-50 on that one. We got Mexican restaurants uh, on Sierra Highway, but also right by close to my house. It's not that much. It's not that much. Anyway, probably round three maybe. I'm in that kind of a mood for it.